Hello everyone and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. I'm your host, Maddee P girl. What's cracking, queen? Did you miss me? I missed you. You guys are lucky today, and you know why you're lucky? Because I'm tweaked again. Everyone, Maddie is tweaked out again, thank God. I said it last episode, but I was getting stale on tea. This life was eating me alive. And I'm back on fire. I'm feeling tweaked, girl. And I'm also back on the TikTok. I'm back on making the talks. If you don't follow me on TikTok, consider yourself blessed. And if you do, you deserve financial compensation. And I'm sorry about that. But I'm living my best life once again. And I'm not faking it this time. I just feel alive, everyone. Okay? And I'm back on my funny girl shit. I've just been out and about, spinning my circles, and having 80 of the HDs. I learned that joke recently, and I think that is fucking hilarious. But they're like ADHD, but you got 80 of them bitches? You got 80 HDs? Yeah, I know I got 80 of them. Thank you. And what does that mean, girls? So today, I did my hair and makeup for you. I did. And I'm in the uni. I'll show you the shirt. In case you missed it, I am mommy's little alcoholic. I'm sorry, Mom. I did skip church today. Sure did, queen. We're going to jump right into some warm-ups today. Okay, where should we start? I don't even know where to start because I'm so just tweaking out. And I had a coffee before this. And recently, like, breathe. Hey, breathe. Recently when I have coffee, I feel like a child who had candy. Like, my brain is just functioning on level 3000. I did not know it could function at this capacity. I'm struggling to sleep at night. Let's just say that much, but my smile is radiant. Life is lifing. Now. Every week recently, I've been having a lot of warm-ups, so I'm just going to choose a few favorites, okay? First, foremost, oh my God. I'll start with this. Kalani Hilliker. Is her name Hilliker? I don't know. Y'all are pissing me off because y'all are mean as fuck to her, okay? I get it. Outfit's not really matching the body, but that's not your fucking business. Not your business. Just like Sydney Sweeney. She's got a face card, so you're pressed. Hello. So I don't know, I just wanted to mention that because I feel like it's really fucking bitchy and we're moving in the opposite direction. We're supposed to be loving each other. Okay? We're supposed to be supporting queens. If she wants her body to be out and about, let her body be out and about. What did it do to you? Sorry, I'm preaching. Now, second point. Cardi B, y'all. Have you seen her? Have you seen her, like, interviews or whatever in the courtroom? She's also tweaked, and she's funny as fuck still. I was about to call her dumb, but I just preached about Kalani, so it's like, do I have any room to call her dumb? Yeah, I do. Guess what? I just made some. Exception made for me. Thank you. It was rough, but it's really fucking funny, because she's like, she keeps saying hello, and the asshole interviewer's like, hello, I'm right here. Fuck you. Grow up. Get a TikTok. And I put on here for no reason, but they're giving out holy water at the new Conjuring. And I can't wait to go see it. That's a really good sign. I need something to, like, scare the bejesus out of me, because these movies are getting stale. Stale is a popular word with me recently. We've revamped, though. We're rebranding. What else we got for you guys? I have been having deep ass meditations, y'all. And some wild ass dreams. And I don't waste my time telling y'all about my dreams. I'm going to actually in a minute here. Sorry about that. Am I the chosen one? My dreams are giving Messiah, if we're being so for real. Like, my meditations are just like, they're really hitting recently. And I feel like it's part of the reason I'm tweaked out, like, in the best way. I'm becoming too powerful, you know? Like, we're going to need a muzzle here shortly. We're going to have to cram me into a locker fast. That's really it. And then I wanted to make you guys aware of something, too. We all know I love the Kardashians. If you don't love the Kardashians, I don't care. Keep your opinion to yourself. A lot of yelling today. A lot of coming at you. I don't care. So the Kardashians, I was watching an episode the other day, and they were talking about how Khloe and her friend, the twins, I don't know their names, were bumper carsing in their fucking Yukons in Hidden Hills or wherever the fuck they live. And I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever heard, because if you don't like Khloe, you should like her after that. Girl was 16 bumper carring her Yukon. Hello. Sorry, I've been saying hello a lot because my friend. tend to take things in. Just really reflecting, you know. I don't know why I felt the need to tell you that. I just thought it was really funny. And when I heard that, I was like, that's that bitch. Chloe's that bitch, y'all, and you're lying if you don't think so. Last and final point. These warm-ups are like going quick recently, and I think it's because I realize that the warm-ups are, I don't know, insane. I don't know, call a doctor. Do you guys have reset days? Because I want to inspire you to have reset days. And you know why I want to inspire you to have reset days? Because I skipped mine today. It's usually Sunday and or my day off, which is also Monday. And I skipped it this week, and I hate myself for it, honestly. We're nearing the end of the week, and I'm like out of things, and like things aren't perfect. But I wanted to get a little uncomfortable because y'all know I'm a type A ass bitch, and it's a disease. If you're type A, it's a disease. Like, it's not necessarily fun all the time. But I have to do it, otherwise I tweak out. And not fun tweak out like I am right now, like tweak out, like crash out. Which we all know, when you go up, you gotta go down, right? But I'm hoping when I go up this time, I just stay up and there is no kind of like floundering in that situation. But I think you guys should have reset days because it's so good for your mind and body where you just put on YouTube, like your favorite comfort YouTuber or movie or like some Modern Family, something light, and just all day go ham, scrubbing the shit out of your house, go to the store, and romanticize it. That shit is beautiful. If you don't know where to start in your life and you're feeling just like, because we got all this shit to do. I've got something in my eye, girl, and it ain't my future. Oh, see, I hesitate to make that joke, and I should have just stopped while I was ahead. It can be overwhelming because we got like diet, exercise, work, all these things. Start with the Sunday reset. Start by simply aligning your life so that when you're moving on to the next day, the next, oh my God, hey! The next task at hand, it's already laid out for you. And you don't have to be like freaking out, wigging out. I think it's the best way to live. So, anyways, there you go, girls. And we are back on our quote of the week grind. This quote this week is, once the subconscious mind accepts an idea, it begins to execute it. And I chose this quote because it gave me a ding and it reminded me of something. And I don't think I told you guys about this. So we all know about my relapse dreams, right? Everyone in recovery has relapse dreams. Mine were getting intense. And when they get intense, I get scared that, because it is my subconscious talking to me. So I get like nervous that I'm secretly spiraling and I don't know about it, because that tends to be my thing. I literally think I'm doing fine and then boom. Girl's on the floor. Girl's been hit by a Mack truck. And I haven't had that in a while, okay? I've gotten a grip on my emotions and like on just really being in tune with myself and seeing these issues before they start rising to the surface. You're welcome for that. I think you're supposed to say excuse me there, but that's okay. Hey girl, that's okay. And so I was having my relapse dreams and they were getting heavy. I posted about this on TikTok too because I was literally scared. And people were just saying to me like, it's fine, just push through it and stuff. And I'm like, no, like I'm like scared. I also feel like I go through phases where it's harder for me to trust myself than other times before. I've hit this level now where I just trust it. I feel it and I know I want better in my life, but I just couldn't trust this girl, this loony ass girl that came in and made me sober. Like, hey, crazy bitch, can't trust you a lick. I think that was my struggle during that time because I didn't feel like I wanted to relapse. Anyways, moving on. I had a dream one night, and this was like right before my 1 year, actually. This was like maybe 10 months of sobriety, something like that. Maybe even 11, girl. It was deep in there. And I had a dream. I hate when people tell me my dreams, so I'll make it short. Tell me their dream, so I'll make it short. Where I was gonna relapse in the dream, okay? I remember I was seated. Y'all know when you're a kid outside the electrical boxes that you like sit around? That was where it was happening, and I was alone, and I was gonna be drinking some wine, okay? And then all of a sudden I'm at work. I didn't need to tell you the electric box part. It just jumped in my brain, and I just had to say it. I had to get it out. It was itching. And I was at work, and I was kind of like spiraling at work, and there was a lot going on. Server dreams, if you know, you know. Yep, they needed the ranch, they needed the water, they needed everything, girl. I was sweating in the dream. And I ordered a tequila soda at the restaurant, okay? I ordered a tequila soda, and I went to go sip it. And I poured it down the little drink chute instead. And in my dream, I did not drink the tequila soda. Tequila soda was my bevy, okay? Ludazol soda, thank you. Double or triple, thank you. Yep. and I poured that shit out. Did not touch my lips, okay? Isn't that insane? And when I woke up, I was like, that was crazy. I didn't articulate it though in the moment as my subconscious rejecting alcohol. But that was what was happening. And just like the quote, like my subconscious mind had accepted this way of life. I feel like I had finally defeated, and we're always in recovery. We are recovering, we're not recovered, but defeated the beast of alcoholism in a way. Part of it will always live with me, but it felt extinguished. Like that flame was like put out in such like a remarkable way. And it was just very, I still think back to it from time to time. And you know what's crazy? Now that I sit here and I'm talking about it and thinking about it with you, bestie, I have not had a relapse dream since then. That was the last relapse dream I've had. I'm sure I'll have other ones, but there's something so symbolic about that. I'm putting work in, and it was like just right before my 1 year where now I feel so comfortable. And I told y'all too, I wanted to update you on this. My disc is almost full. What the fuck? I wanted to update you on this, that I was having, I told y'all, like, thoughts of relapse, but they weren't like looming, like romanticizing, like heavy thoughts of relapse. They were like in a kamikaze style way, where I drive past this one restaurant I went to one time on the way home, and I'm like, I should pull over and have a shot. And like, not I should, but just like, you know, you're not supposed to. I don't know. You know, I talk to y'all about this. These are thoughts. These are things that occur. And I'm honest about it. Even though I'm comfortable in my sobriety, I feel good about my recovery. For some reason, I was having these thoughts. And it was wigging me out, okay? And those have dissipated. I do not have them at all now. And I think I have a touch of OCD because I fixated, when I was having those thoughts, I fixated and started to explore perhaps this OCD mind or whatever the fuck was going on. And as I did that and tried to like structure my brain and combat thoughts that didn't feel like mine, but for some reason I identified as mine, that's when that shit started to subside and I was not feeling the same anymore. So that's just a few little updates, guys, on my sobriety is always doing good, but it's just, I've definitely hit a precipice where I just feel like I graduated. I feel like a grown up in the best way. And a grown up that, what have I done all along, y'all? I fought to keep my childhood, to keep my girlhood at the pinnacle of all, the very center of all of this. I wanted to be a fucking kid again and be able to be an adult and manage it. And it's happening. And I'm smiling big. And I'm enjoying my sobriety. And I don't want to drink. And I'm having so much fun being out and about too with people and just like enjoying myself and enjoying the time and just like truly living in the moment, which was something that I never ever thought I'd be able to do. When I entered recovery, I was like, I'm never going to be able to live in this moment people talk about. I cannot let go like this. There's no way. Like, these thoughts are so much, so often, so constant. And y'all see it. Sometimes I talk faster than my brain can move. You hear it. I stumble on my words, girl. I'm going at 50 billion trillion miles an hour. Active addiction, this was even worse, except for she was stupid. Even worse. So I just want to encourage you and show you someone who has finally learned to silence her mind and just enjoy the task at hand. And we'll dive into an episode upcoming, so I'll just touch on it, but just enjoying really mundane things that I thought I wasn't allowed to enjoy, / I didn't want to enjoy anything that wasn't a severe dopamine hit. Yeah. And that's not the case anymore, and I think that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Thanks! And now we'll jump right in. Okay, see, what was that? We'll jump right in. So we're at 14 minutes. Not the worst warm-up round ever, okay? I'm trying to dial it back. Sometimes when I'm hitting 20 minutes on warm-ups, it's like, oh my God. Hey, somebody get her a muzzle stat. But this week, we're kind of talking about the subconscious, if you couldn't tell by the quote, a little bit. And I'll like dive into it and you can see what the theme is for the week, because I don't even know how to articulate it, and I'm not going to try to because I don't want to. I don't want to. And I guess like in a way, I'll start by saying we're going to touch on some disguised selfishness and like disguised aspects of yourselves that are just like right under the surface, or myself, I guess. And I know you're tired of hearing, I get shitty views on like the judgments episodes and like the talking about bettering yourself in these certain aspects and like whatever. This one's a little more fun though, okay? Because if you want to hear about bettering yourself, go to a fucking meeting. Go to a self-help thing. Mel Robbins or whatever the fuck her name is. Go find her. You know, I'm not here for that. I'm here to share my personal experience and my life and what I deal with my alcoholism, my addictions, and moving forward in my mental health. And if you don't know, I was a very, very, very sick and troubled individual. Very, very depressed, very anxious, and very addicted. I'm going to try to articulate this the best that I can, okay? And I feel like when I'm filming, when I give up on articulating and I just tell you how I feel, people tend to relate and you kind of can see what I'm saying. So I'm not going to overexhaust myself trying to make sense. And a girl that just doesn't make sense. Not my forte to make sense, okay? So I guess like there are the obvious ways that we hurt people, that we are wrong, that we are selfish, that we are judgmental. These are obvious. These are things that I can see on the surface. But underneath, there is this looming situation where I am not who I say I am. And not like how we discussed in the past episodes. It is like this weird thing where it's just kind of like undetected and lurking. And it's not something that I see very often, but it just reminds me that I'm not healed. And I will always be on this journey because there is just something, a monkey attached to my back that wants me to choose myself over and over and over again. No matter how much I heal externally and I'm trying my hardest, it's layer by layer. And I feel like that's part of recovery, and I sound like an idiot because I'm just like reaching these lower layers where I can truly actually see at the very pit of my stomach what it actually means to be me. And it is still sometimes, honestly, very stressful for me to be like kind or me to choose somebody other than myself. I'm not saying all the time. Obviously, I'm a kind girl. Obviously, I've worked on these things very diligently. But it's something that I want you to feel okay about because that's what makes me feel like a monster, I think. And my whole life, it used to be bigger before I'm starting to heal these different layers, but I always felt like underneath I was a monster and that I was really a piece of shit, bad, because others didn't see my thoughts and didn't see what was really going on inside. And I was trying to scream to express it to them, but nobody could understand where I'm coming from. And so I want you to see that work that's kind of been going on, and that's what I've been dealing with recently, and not dealing with, I've been having fun with it, is learning my subconscious and letting her like come to the surface. With working on my subconscious though, I'll say it again, the dreams have been nuts. And I started keeping a dream journal. I've done this in different parts of my life. I think a lot of people have kept dream journals, but they like genuinely mean something, and not in like a like hippie, like spiritual way. Like it'll be circumstantial or like certain people or ties. And that's what I've been working on, y'all, is like, I just about to rip my headphones off, is working on like these ties that I have with these people, more so like past experiences, and their soul is like lurking around me, and it has nothing to do with them or that person. I want to trick myself into thinking that it's them or that person, but it's me, this attached feeling that I have, and something that is just left open and unhealed within me. And it's been giving me these clues into how to heal those burdens. And then my smile is just thus getting bigger and bigger. These things that are just under the surface are things that are just disguised by, I think, pain. I don't think we give ourselves enough leeway because we say we're healed, because we say all this stuff. We deal with pain. There's clearly things like I just discussed where my past exists in me. There's nowhere for it to go. It has to be taken out one by one and healed. It's not gonna like just fly away on its own. And we have a lifetime of that shit that has occurred inside of us to take care of. So I think like for me, my pain disguises that sometimes, and I get selfish and judgmental, but it's in my core. Even if in my conscious, I'm pushing against it, it's still existing in my subconscious. Does this make sense to you? Should I have tried to articulate this more? I don't know if I could have. I think I get confused when I try to articulate things more. And then when I do that, I sit here, and y'all see when I forget when I'm talking mid-sentence, that's what happens to me when I try to do it. Anyway, so I think it's that. And then obviously my ego. And I think the ego kind of coincides sometimes with self-protection. And we learned a little bit last week. We talked about like the balance of self-protection and of finding our voice, and how sometimes that's hard in a healing place because we don't know where we're coming from. And I think the ego and that kind of get confused in myself as somebody who's in like the juvenile stages of healing. And I think we all are. If you're close to my age and you're here, you're in the juvenile stages. It takes experience to heal, I think. And it takes experience to learn certain lessons that we need to learn in order to heal. So I think like these three things cause a recipe for me to hide really, really deep down. And some days, honestly, it's harder for me to not look at myself in the mirror. We love her, but like to tap in. I think it's about tapping in. And sometimes I'm just fucking tired and I want to like leave that mask up to where like I'm good enough, but like I can't tap into that subconscious, to that next level of myself that sometimes I am in tune with and sometimes I'm not. And I'm like kind of like, I feel like I'm teetering and I'm on the brink of like just like this radical state, y'all, of her being so for real, everyone. Just this like radical place to be in where I'm constantly in tune with that deeper and darker side and becoming more powerful. What these are, what I choose to name them as and see them as, is the most secretive parts of me. They're something that only I will ever see and only I will ever understand, so that responsibility to work on it is totally up to me. And it's just like little secrets of me. And I think it's because we all know in reality to some extent, at least within myself, that I'm putting on a show. There's some part of me that is putting on a show. And I'm breaking the cameras and breaking those lenses. And I'm not talking about the feeling where people are following you with cameras and all that stuff, because that's its whole own other beast. But there's still a show that is existing where I'm more judgmental than I care to admit. Or I'm pushing someone towards a decision because it might benefit me, And it's this weird trickery and like secretive space that I'm not afraid to admit exists within me because I'm only a fucking human. Another example of that too is, like you're healing and you're feeling better and you're choosing to help others. This is a big theme of this podcast and of addiction and all of that. But there are a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are not addicts and are not alcoholics. And I push people towards helping others because that's what heals yourself, whether you're an addict, whether you're an alcoholic or not. That's what gives you space, is helping others. And when you're in that place, even this like little monster inside of you, sometimes you're getting a call, like you're receiving a phone call. I do this and I'm fucked for it. And I'm admitting it. Receiving a phone call from somebody that might need help, might need a ride, might need something. And you're laying in bed, you're reading a book, you're doing something that you just want peace. It might even be that 5 seconds that you sit down. And you ignore the call. You choose to ignore the call. That's a good example, I think, of myself, because that's where that little subconscious, selfish, almost sometimes judgmental thing comes out. Where I'm just like, I'm choosing me. But really, it's tainted. And it's not real. And it's me being a bitch, if we're being completely honest. The main theme for this too, and what we're going to discuss today, because this isn't all we're discussing, this is just the beginning of me explaining that, I think, and learning to heal it. But I don't want you to take that so personally, because I had to learn not to take it so personally, because we are humans, guys. We are human beings, okay? And it's not that deep. So I think when we talk about like little traces of lying, little traces of judgment and selfishness and being a dick, or talking behind somebody's back and feeling bad about whatever it is, we're human. And it does not need to be such a step back to do stuff like that. I think that we think we just choose to be great. We just choose all these things and it happens, and that's how things go. And obviously we have to heal ourselves. But at the same time, humans are naturally, and I had to accept this within myself, I had to learn that like I naturally am on my team and I naturally want to win. Okay? And that is, I want to win. I want to be the winner. And that is just who we are as people. We are animals to some extent. So we're trying to be these loving, gracious, great people. But we're combating our natural human instinct, which is to not be that. Which is to be a bitch. Which is to choose ourselves and put the competition down. And like whether that you view that in a primal instinct way, in terms of like predators and shit, however you want to picture that. And I had to break that mold, and I think it's just being real as fuck. Radically real as shit. And saying, that's what we are though. We're competitive. We're here to get the biggest cattle that we fucking can and bring it down like a lion. And we can't break that cycle within ourselves. So I think we're changing these things because it's innate to be, and I've talked a little bit about it before, but it's innate to be that way. And we're choosing healing, we're choosing society, and we're choosing ourselves. And so I don't want you to take it as so deep, because it's not. What kind of like supplied me peace on that route and finding that was the verbiage in a way within myself of replacing like combating myself and my thoughts with like, I'm just combating humanity and my natural instincts, and I'm breaking a mold, whether like whatever mold that it looks like that day, that I'm breaking that, and I'm becoming anew, and I'm in new territory every time that happens. And maybe it's me seeing myself like a fucking animal. I don't know. Is that good advice? It helps me though to see myself as an animal. It scares me to be still. Strawberry lipstick. If you know what I'm talking about, I fucking love you. Parts of me that were still rather yucky and still rather nasty at times weren't worth my conscience. And I was breaking myself down over these ideals when I realized that my subconscious, it's like you think you're healed and you look at your subconscious and it's completely tainted, and you finally see it and you're like, oh wow, maybe I just shoved it down a little bit, or like there are so many layers of this beast that exists, like, and I keep going down and down and finding more and more. And my conscious, finally, honestly, this is kind of the first bout of balance in a way for me, because my conscious and me thriving and me being happy and moving forward and being able to do this healing is more important than me focusing on those yucky things and getting stuck in that somewhat environment, I guess. And it was the first balance and acceptance of who I am meant to be, and where I'm at in this moment. This whole time I've been striving so hard to get to what I think is going to be the finish line, or striving so hard to run away from those ideals, that like I am finally in that place of acceptance to understand that where I am in this moment, I can be content with. Whether there's nasty shit under my surface or not, I can be content, because it's about the effort and trying day in and day out to reach that subconscious and to heal it. I guess to word this, it's the acceptance of failure too. That's what it is. It was the acceptance of my defeat and my failure. And after all this work, I'm looking and I'm seeing that I'm putting on a show still, this secrecy, that this little pocket of secrecy that maybe I thought I'd empty, but it's full of gunk. It was failure. It was me being a failure and accepting it fully with my heart. And then also finally accepting, and we say this, just like last episode, some of these concepts feel juvenile, but they're not until you instill it in yourself. And it was me combating perfection and seeing for the first time that I am still innately striving for this perfection, to beat out the competition, to win. All I want is to win constantly. And I'm striving for this perfection, and it's making me sick. At whatever level, whether it's me looking in the mirror, whether it's me editing this podcast, whether it's me out with people, in my socialization and how I act, and me being a weirdo, me sometimes being awkward, me being quiet, whatever I am. Because I'm not striving to be healed, I'm striving to be perfect. And those two are just constantly intertwined, and it's a brain game that I play, and I've accepted that there's nothing wrong with that. And in turn, it was accepting my defeat and my inability to ever be perfect, because it's not possible. I could finally look in the mirror and be like, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. And you are seeing shit for real. And it was beautiful, because I've done all this shit I tell you all about, the confidence, building your confidence, telling me that I love myself every day, getting to a place where I do love her and I do feel for her. But that wasn't what confidence is about anymore. Now it's this new level of, really, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. And in my heart, having her back in this way where I'm not looking for the next and looking how I'm going to beat out the competition or how I'm going to be perfect. I'm just there. And I'm fine. It was like, I think it was a new kind of precipice of confidence that I hadn't reached yet. And I mean, and this is more recent, because I'm learning how to explore my subconscious and like what that looks like for me. Leaning into your subconscious is something that you can do when you feel safe. And obviously it's about building a safe environment. I think we'll talk about that a little bit into the episode. But it was a mix of like being brutally honest and self-love that opened kind of that hole in my chest. And it was this self-awareness, very brutal, deep honesty, but having my back in that way where it's like, you're fine, you're doing great. And that's what has kind of, I think, allowed me to explore deeper. We fool ourselves into thinking that like, even after all this work, that taking the high road doesn't cost us. It costs me. I want to win. If I say that one more time, but like, and I think it's because I'm trying to articulate this the best that I can right now, and it's kind of weird when we start talking about the subconscious and these personal things, because it's like, everyone might not get it. I'd fool myself into thinking that that being kind and gracious and all this was natural and comfortable for me. Because it cost me every time I took the high road. I am gaining freedom and helping others. I'm gaining in all these aspects. But there's a cost that I'm paying. And it's a little price of my ego each time that I get to pay. And I'm like, take my fucking money. Because I don't want to live this way. But I had been fooled into thinking that it was comfortable. And I was proud and glad to recognize that I was paying a cost each time. Because deep below that surface, I wasn't emotionally aligned. I was still extremely burdened. And it's this theme, and why I kind of bring it up sometimes, of like, I am not always who I say I am, or who I think I am. And that this season, for some reason for me, and this season I mean like just the season of life that I'm in, that is something that has just reoccurred in me. And it's like, because I contradict myself. This used to be a big problem in my addiction and my alcoholism, and that's part of being a mirror and a chameleon. But I was contradictory, and sometimes I find myself doing that, and that's because two things can exist at once, and I can have different opinions. And I think I'm trying to fit this mold of a healed person, and I'm not. What I need to be reaching is this mold of myself. That's all that matters. Instead of, okay, so if I feel this way, then my opinions need to kind of all align in this because I'm this type of person now. And so I feel contradictory if my opinions or who I am and stuff doesn't lie here. And that's not what my subconscious is asking me to do. That's what society is asking me to do. And I'm getting mixed up in this place, and thus I feel contradictory. And it was somewhere deep, if I say deep, but somewhere deep inside of me too, I would choose myself every time. And I think that's why in healing, some things, when we choose better, it needs to be tainted by this selfishness. We're choosing better so we can be better. That's because we're tricking ourselves, thinking that we're helping others, we're helping ourselves. And I knew somewhere I'm choosing myself time and time again. And it's something that I can't shake. And I think like now I'm starting to shake and understand it, but I think we need to understand that other people deal with this too. And that's what that monster is. That monster isn't this nasty beast that you portrayed in your head. It's you being a natural human and you instinctually choosing yourself, which is as an animal what you're supposed to be doing. And other people are dealing with that conflict inside as well, whether they know it or not. That's what we're dealing with. And it's funny because when you see it in other people, it's so recognizable and so easy to see from miles away. But in you're still performing. You're performing at whatever level you think it is. It's impossible to let go of all the society stuff. I mean, not impossible, but it's very difficult, especially as an addict, as an alcoholic. So you're performing to some degree. That originally really, really fucking sickened me. It absolutely sickened me to see me that bare-boned, to see what the real honest truth was and the real motives behind all of this, which was ego and it was kind of self. And I think that just goes to show the absolute layers and layers and layers of the psyche. And it's kind of like a wonderland. When you get into shit like this, it's fun because it's insane to see like that we're aliens and like deep down how extremely powerful we are. And because of trauma, because of pain, because of guilt and shame and all these nasty things, we've covered up all of these scars. But I was about to say something cheesy. I'm going to say it. Each scar that I have, I now see as something that light can shine through. And if that scar wasn't there in the first place, I'd have nothing to heal. If I had nothing to heal, I would stay the same instead of growing. and growing in many aspects in myself that are going to align and create something beautiful that I wouldn't have the chance for if I hadn't experienced this great pain. Because I'm providing myself this room to kind of have judgment, have white lies. Honestly, if we're being completely real, we're here to be real about stuff. And I'm not perfect. I'm a sick person who's choosing to heal. And I have to have patience with that. But because I have this room, this radical understanding that I am human, and all of these nasty things are very natural to me, and I get to bloom from there, that is something that I now am providing for other people. And letting people the fuck go. And I don't want to get too close to the judgment episode. If you want to talk more about stuff like that, there is an episode on judgment that you can go back and look at. But if these people have the same opportunity to be human, I get that same opportunity, and vice versa. And I think once I realized that it wasn't that fucking deep, that this person told a lie, that this person was a bitch, that this person said something horrible, not horrible, this person said something bad, this person had judgment, that it wasn't that deep, that it's just a little hole in who they are and it's really no big deal. That was what, and not to loop it back to the judgment thing again, but it's a theme in my life right now. That oh my God, spit it out, Junior. That's what I'm healing. But that's what truly took judgment completely off the table for me, was seeing people for what they are, and that's damaged, and that's broken, just like me. And I'm not alone. That's kind of, in some ways too, is making me see now that this unity that I feel with other people, that I think is society, that I think is partying, or whatever I think it is, the unity is the pain to some extent too, is exactly what other people are feeling, I'm feeling. And they're struggling to be the best version of themselves too. And so all these things that I feel is what attaches me to each human, to this great human condition too, mind you, that we all have. And that opened up to a level of letting go and digging deeper that I hadn't seen again. It's just radically, I think I wanted one of the messages today to be that radically accepting people is where we should be at. And it's something, I don't know, it's just something in me that has been happening recently where, you know, my friends come to me to talk about somebody else or to talk about our friend or whatever, like the case may be. And my advice to them every time is just like, it's not that deep. And they're a person. And the amount of leeway that we give people is this big. And we disguise it as like self-protection or whatever. It's you being kind of selfish. It's you having an inability to see your friends. And I'm not coming at you. I'm saying that about myself too. And because of understanding that concept of everything, I would never give up on anyone the same that I did before. It was easy for me to turn on somebody as soon as I saw a little flint of something in them. I can turn around and let that person completely go. All of their memories, everything they ever gave me is gone. And that's fucked. That's so fucked up. And now it's like, I could never give up on people because I should have been given up on time and time again. And then maybe this too, maybe some of you don't part with this because you don't deal with this level of selfishness that like alcoholics and addicts do deal with. And it's real. And I think it's something that we choose not to talk about because we think that we can't have it anymore. And if we're healed, if we're going to meetings, if we're recovering, if we're sober, then surely we aren't feeling these things anymore. And it's fucking embarrassing to be that selfish. It's embarrassing to be that judgmental, that weak, that unkind, that unfit. It's fucking crippling. And I think people do have that outside of addiction, outside of the rooms. It's something very real that everyone deals with. And I'm here to show you that it's not embarrassing to admit it. And the sooner that you get honest with yourselves about that weird thing underneath the surface, that weird pocket of secrecy that exists, this ego and this nasty person, then the sooner that you get to be healed and the sooner that you get to love freely and move on. And loving freely has been the greatest decision I've ever made. Loving in this radical way and giving people this radical amount of space to be themselves. And to be themselves in a way that's not just them embarrassing themselves or being silly or goofy. No. Being themselves is their defects. That's when we say we're allowing people to be themselves, that's what we need to be allowing. Not getting shit on, obviously, and all of that. But they have to have space to be like that in the open. because we get that space. We're giving it to ourselves. Whether we think we are or we're not, we make excuses for ourselves daily or monthly or whatever, weekly, whatever your occurrence is, where you make an excuse where you get to go be a shit person. You have that. And other people get to have that too. You know, stay in your lane has been, I think, something in my sobriety that has really propelled me forward. Every time I say forward on here, I say that. And I'm like, am I dreaming right now? Forward. That's what, staying in my lane and not thinking so deeply about other people and their actions and what the fuck they got going on, because they're messy as shit too. Having these like blinders on where it really is the focus is just forward and the focus is just love and it's just peace. Simply, everything else is an overcomplication of life. And that's natural. I'm going to face that. It's going to be hard and it's going to be painful, but it's an overcomplication. And I'm taking, again, that homework that we talk about that's assigned, that is not fucking mine, that I assign to myself, that doesn't need to exist. Things are a lot less go with the flow than we care to admit. That's how recovery is. We say it's go with the flow, we say it's relax, but it's indeed the exact opposite. We can't go with the flow. We don't know how. And when we do go with the flow, we get like lost in the sauce and we get fucked up about it. Does that make sense? I'm trying to articulate this in a way that like, this is something in our control. Giving people that freedom and that space, that's the go with the flow that is in our control that we are missing. And that stay in your lane and not giving a fuck what they have going on. That is a pillar of sobriety that I wish that I had recognized a little sooner. And maybe I did, but it is taking me a really long time to hone in and understand that it's a complication of my life that is deterring me from being great pretty constantly. And I think what goes with that too, did that even make sense right there? I'm not going to edit that too much or overanalyze that because I hope it made sense. It feels like it made sense, but we'll see. And I think what goes with that too, if you're unaware, I think I've talked to you guys about this before, but a spiritual axiom. If you don't know what a spiritual axiom is, it is whenever you don't like something in somebody, they are reflecting a piece of you. That's something that you don't like in yourself. This was something I learned early in recovery that really helped me with the giving people the space to be a person, that I had not allowed anyone before at all. It was all about me holding those people accountable for their shit, because I hate myself and I feel like I'm being shit on. I need to protect myself somewhere, so it's against others versus against myself. And the spiritual axiom, to me, seeing life honestly had nothing to do with seeing life healed. And I think that honesty is the healing factor here, and underneath healing is just all about honesty, this radical honesty. And we don't see it as that way, but now that is what it has become to me, because that is what healing is. Spiritual axiom, to loop back to it, helped because people irked me on such a deep level. Like, I don't think I need to explain that, because I think people understand what I mean at this deep level of irked, that I'm the only person in the room, not because I feel sometimes a disconnect in my unity and my socialization, but because I hate people and I'm a piece of shit. And they are irking me deeply in this way that I cannot express, that nearly makes me want to die. And that is a loneliness, a selfish version of loneliness that tainted my soul for many years and is really hard to overcome. But that spiritual axiom, because I am radically, and if I say radically one more fucking time, oh my god, but seeing that half the time what I am not liking in these people is just me not liking things within myself, was, and I don't know where I heard this, I think I read this somewhere along the lines, but like, looking, when you don't like somebody, when you don't like how they act or what they're doing, looking for things about them that you do like. So like, say you work with this person and they're annoying as fuck to you and they just irk your soul and they bother the shit out of you, but they're really good at helping you do task A, task B, task C. They're really they're helpful. They show up on time. They do what you need to do. And when you're searching actively for positivity, that is what combats your brain and combats that subconscious monster. Because there is no way for that positivity to escape now. That is where your brain is. It is searching feverishly for that person to look better to you, because it's about your perception. It's not about the other person changing, it's about your perception changing. And that's most of healing and most of recovery. But that's what the spiritual axiom gave me in that regard. Because I had to change the way I saw things. That person doesn't need to change for me. I need to change my vision. Because what I'm looking for are these positive situations, then what I'm going to see is a positive person. And over time, oh, I kind of like that bitch. She's kind of fly, you know? And it's funny because maybe part of this is an addict that I recognize too, that all of my life, essentially then, if that's the case, all of my life, people have been accepting me and changing their perception about me and choosing to love me despite my flaws. And that was something that I didn't ever return. I could not return that favor. That also would be what linked finally self-awareness and actual action, if that makes sense. Because they say, you can be self-aware as you fucking want, but if you're not healed, it doesn't matter. And I really part with that because through my addictions, through my alcoholism, if you know me personally, you know I have been self-aware for a very long time. And I think I wasn't always that way, but up in, I'd say about like 17, 18 was when I really started to get this self-aware energy where I could truly see myself. But I could not heal it, and I could not act better. I just knew. So it meant absolutely fucking nothing. And all that does is like cause you to suffer because you don't understand how linking those two and becoming a better person and becoming more kind and more fit, what that looks like. And I think that was what started linking the action, was the self-awareness and then the big perspective changes and me having to force that into my life because it's not natural for me. It's natural for me to beat out the competition. And in a mind like this, everything is the competition. Whether I care to admit that or not, and whether it's on a subconscious level and not constantly in my waking life. And now I'm healed, so I don't want to sound like this is a recent thing. I'm not in competition with you, girl. I love you. When I strip me to bare bones, that strips my life. That strips everything in my perspective and everything to the bare bones. So instead of me thinking, and maybe some of this is obvious to people, so I don't know. I don't know. But, instead of, my friend should be doing this, or I don't know, I don't like her opinion on this, or like maybe if she didn't care so much about boys or care so much about this, maybe if she had like this and that, I just need to be happy that my friend is alive, standing next to me. And I guess that comes in with gratefulness, and to some people that's obvious, like, yeah, bitch. My mind wasn't that way, I was sick. And that comes in all forms, not addiction, not alcoholism, but a mental illness too. And it doesn't make you a monster to be sick. It doesn't make you a monster to have OCD, to have anxiety, to have depression, whatever it is. It doesn't make you a monster. You're a sick person. And you deserve the space to breathe and to be honest about the mistakes that you make, even if they're active and even if it's something that you can't change or you're really struggling to change. When I recognized that I would just be happy from here on out that people around me were alive, that's what counts. And it takes that when you're sick, I think. To be grateful for things, it does need to be that severe and an extreme mind. And I live in a very extreme place, and that's something that a lot of you understand, I think. And because I exist there, then my perspectives need to be that extreme. That's why the program is that rigorous, and that's why the actions I take and the way I live my life are that extreme. Because it's combating an extreme monster that does exist. Whether I want to admit it some days or not, that does exist on my inside. That was the beginning of the transition of a full, because we talked about the transition of perspective when you first get sober, and that was really important for me, and that was a driving factor into my sobriety because I realized my perspective was so tainted and so ugly and just like really, really sad and really depressing. And I knew that all it took was me opening up to happiness and opening up to peace, and that it would take work to change that perspective. But now in this healing life, reaching a year of sobriety, I'm hitting another place where I feel my perspective needs to change. And it has been doing that naturally, like as I searched inward, but making that flip of things being as simple as I'm happy that my best friend is alive, and I'm happy that my parents are alive, and I'm happy that I can pay my bills, and I'm happy that I have a job, which is the cheesiest type of shit ever, but it's kind of a radical way of thinking, because at the same time, it's like, well, I don't have that job, so I don't have the job I want, so what does it fucking matter that I have a job? I don't get a say in that. Because now, if I'm granted with this opportunity and a new perspective, I'm granted with the opportunity to be radically positive and radically happy with what I have. And I can finally make peace and happiness my only goal. And that these little I'm hoping I'm connecting dots and making sense for you guys. I'm trying to articulate. It's very difficult to me. I can do my little human tasks where I run around, I work out, I go to work, I hang out with my friends, I go get my coffee, I go to meetings, I edit all day. Those very human tasks can exist at the same time that my only goal is to be happy, to be healthy, and to experience a level of peace that when I leave this planet, my soul, when it gets united with whatever my soul is, whatever the next side is, whatever it's supposed to be, is at a place that I can be proud of. And where living day in and day out is becoming less and less difficult for me. And looking for these positives, for this peace within my life is a lot less difficult because it's something innate that's happening. And I needed that perspective flip, and I talked about how stale things had gotten for me. And I wouldn't say I was depressed. I wouldn't say I wasn't unhappy by any means, but it was stale. And I don't want to live a life like that. I want to oblige, right? By these human laws of money and time and of job. And I want to master responsibility and determination and these very human kind of rat race concepts. But I want to glow during that. What that has been, and now we're kind of like skipping around topics, so sorry about that, girl. But I think I am the happiest right now, these last 2 weeks that I have ever been since I was a kid. The least amount of mental health and bullshit that I've ever faced in my entire life, and waking up in this place of happiness. It almost feels like a pink cloud again in some ways. And I wanted to fool myself and say it was what I was doing, and it was no, it's a lot of this work paying off. And what it was too, I feel like, is recently I've accepted this fuck it attitude again. And that is where my perspective has changed, and being united with letting people free and letting me free in the meantime, and seeing that subconscious side of that. But also, and this has been a big struggle for me, and y'all have watched me throughout the entire course of this podcast, but through my entire life, I have deeply struggled with my purpose in a way that makes me want to kill myself. Not in a fuzzy way, not in a way, oh, I can't wait to be successful, whatever. No, that's the only thing that matters. To a level that I cannot explain to you. To a way that it keeps me up at night. And this is the first time in my life where true freedom has come in, because freedom isn't in my discipline. It isn't to some degree, but freedom isn't in my work. Freedom isn't in if I get all of this right, and if the podcast goes off, or if I find what I meant to do, or if I finally graduate, whatever, fuck ever. That's not where my freedom comes. My freedom is when I can break that mold. Because why on earth is there any point in my life that makes me feel like that? And I thought, because of the rat race, because of society, I had tricked, and because of how much great pain it had truly caused me to not be successful, I thought, in some twisted, fucked up way, that was gonna heal me. And that there was nothing wrong with me fixating on that. Even though I couldn't subscribe to the rat race, to many degrees. But that was where I could subscribe. But it was because I was hiding behind pain and behind ego. And now I'm finally able to genuinely mean it when I say that I am here to laugh, and I am here to experience peace, and I am here to experience life, because this might be the only time I get to be on earth. What if the next planet or the next place we go or whatever is ugly as shit? What if it's like full of peace but it's not pretty? What if this is the haven of beauty and of like nature and like this beautiful world that we get to live in? What if this is it? And that's what I want to experience in my life. And my goal wasn't to be happy. My goal was to experience, because happy was too far out of reach for me. That was something that I was striving and grasping, and I thought I had purpose written all over it and all these other things all over it, and that wasn't it. The whole time I needed to let go of that. And I haven't ever been in a place where I can accept, again, kind of looping back to with the subconscious thing where I look in the mirror and I say, you're doing great. You're doing great. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And not in a way of fooling myself, of lying about it, of trying to feel that way and trying to shift my perspective. It's real. And I feel this peace. And it's because I let go of that purpose and of having to find something. And at the pit, it's because I am blessed immensely too, and I can't ignore that. I'm blessed with beautiful friendships, beautiful friendships, beautiful family members, beautiful people in my life that make me feel this way. And what I recognized too the other day was like, I would pay any amount for like real joy and real smile and real laughter. And I didn't force that to come into my life. And it's starting to naturally occur to me that I'm not hollowing up in my bed anymore. And that is something that's a disease in me. That goes with my alcoholism, my addiction, but that is something else. The part where I want to bunch up and be alone is just a disease. It's something, it's part of that darkness we discussed a few weeks ago that just looms over me. And it's part of who I thought I was. And that has dissipated. I've traded in being in my bed. It was forced before. And finally I'm hitting a place where I'm actively choosing to go out and be with my friends over being in bed. Which to some people that's like, yeah, no shit. That's not like that to me. That's not like that to other people that may watch this that have depression, that have anxiety, that have things wrong with them, that are fucked with a human condition. And that's a sickness on its own. That's enough to kill a person. We've also discussed that before. And the way that has kind of proven itself to me and some proof in my life is that when I slow down, so I can be happy in my mundane tasks. I think that's step one, is being happy in those mundane tasks and being happy in these things in life. But when you pause and you get a moment and say that I'm somebody that fills my schedule. We all know this. I'm somebody that fills my schedule, that is busy, busy, busy. That's how I live. That's probably how I always live because I want the most out of life. But when I get a moment to stop, I, for some reason, am filled with anxiety. Like, it can be crippling at times. Like, filled with an unnatural ease. And that is my natural state. I have kind of begun to understand. Was that my natural state of stillness is anxiety, and it's an uncomfortable sensation. Obviously, that's something we combat in addiction, and that's part of the reason of me being an addict. Is that is my level of normalcy, is uncomfortability. Is that a feeling of wanting to crawl out of your skin, but because we're healing, I'm not identifying it as simply as that. Because that couldn't exist in me anymore if I'm not sick, right? Surely. Because if it does, I'm in a world for danger. I'm fucked if that's the case right now. And so I think that's why I disguised it. But that was the truth. That when I paused, things were uncomfortable for me. And this now is only the beginning, so I don't want to act like I'm healed or whatever. We're healing. We're never healed. But this is the first time in my life when I stop, it's naturally a joy that runs through me. It's naturally just peace. It's calm. It's serenity. And I know that's a virtue that we work on finding, but these are the subconscious levels that I'm trying to articulate to you. Because yeah, I can say that I'm not experiencing anxiety and stuff because I'm not to the same level anymore, but where's my natural baseline? Subconsciously, what does that look like for me? And subconsciously right now, it's a joy. And it's not as deep and pressure filled. And I think that was for me eradicating that purpose and defying myself in those odds, because that's not what my life is supposed to be about. And I'm trying to fit into this box that I built. And it's not even, and I think of course a big part of that for most people, and this might help you, is trusting in the universe, trusting in your higher power, trusting that situation. But that's not how I'm a realist. And that's not fair for me to do, to say, you know, I can, and I work day in and day out on that, on having faith in the future and in my higher power for things to work out the way they're supposed to. But I'm a realist. I don't get to sit back kind of and kick my feet up and hope for the best. That's not how my brain operates. And I work on my relationships with my higher powers. I work on my relationships with things like that, with the universe. But when I really boiled it down and stripped it bare boned, I understood that didn't have to be the answer. Because I think if I am articulating this to you, and I really hope I am, I think people think it's as simple as letting go and you know, letting your higher power, whatever, take control. But that doesn't always give us peace. I think that it takes time, but I think it's person to person. And not to deter you, if that's something that's working for you, I'm overly floored for you, and I think that's fantastic. But for myself, in this mind, in this life of Maddie, in this soul, this vessel that I'm in right now, that wasn't enough to let go of the reins. And I can let go of the reins, but again, I guess I'm repeating myself now, but again, I'm a realist. So I don't know how to articulate that in a way that, and hand it to you in this perfect podcast way, because I feel like we're just kind of talking right now. But that has saved me a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of peace to just be okay in this moment in a way that overshadows all that. So if I get overwhelmed with the fact that something else has control, basically, and I'm not even a control freak, not in that way. I don't want to preach to you, and I don't want to come here and say things that are not productive, because I think for most people that is counterproductive, and I don't think you should operate that way. I think if you have a higher power and whatever, you should let it take control. But in this realism underneath the surface way, that is very difficult. And I think I'm trying to explain the coping that went around that with me, more so than kicking that out of my life. I don't want to sound like that. There's a coping that exists, right? I still need to be a human. And that happiness is showing through my cracks when I get stillness. And I'm not a control freak, so it's not about the control aspect of something else having my life and of trusting the future. But there's still a moment that exists under all that. There's still a moment where I have to breathe and I have to be a person. And I don't want to do that in this painful cycle. And it's fair for me to take a lot of time, maybe years, to break that mold. And I'm only at the beginning of what that journey will look like for me. I've gone through years of this autopilot, of my natural state being a deep, deep pain. A deep pain. And I want you to see other people experiencing that, because I did not know that most people and a lot of people are dealing with a great pain like I was, and how much it cost me. And like I said, sometimes it still costs me to choose the better. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think there needs to be a cost for me, because it reminds me to stay humble and how small I truly am. And that's when my happiness can sink into these pits. And part of being an addict, of being an alcoholic, is that I have to fit into those situations, whether I want to or whether or not. Other people might have the freedoms to say fuck society and go do what they want. I don't have that freedom. Some people in addiction might even have that freedom. That's not how my brain functions. I can't rebel in that way, not against society. It doesn't work for me. It keeps me sick. I don't know what it is. For me personally, I can't rebel that rambunctiously against the natural pace and flow of life. It does not heal me. And I have to have the accountability, because that robs me of my unity too, which is the most important thing to me, and is what is providing me this peace that exists in me now, and this unity that exists in my life. And like this cohesive rhythm that day in and day out, it's like I'm the tide, and I rise and I go back out, and I rise and I go back out. And it's this balance and this flow that is making sense to a once very sick girl. I just have to remember to let go of me in order to be free, and to let her run wild in so many aspects, including in my pain. And I before tricked myself into those kind of ideals that, you know, I couldn't experience the pain and I couldn't experience certain things, but I have to let her go and go get hurt and go be united with these very other real human emotions that are tragedy. And that's like, so y'all know sometimes when I get talking, I am so like I get emo with my things, but I think it's because people wouldn't expect the pain that I have endured. Is that like really fucking cheesy? I don't know. I just don't want you to feel alone. And that was something that I always felt. And finally, because we're hitting pretty close to time, I think one big step for this new precipice that is existing within me and this new level of peace that I'm finding is, if we're being so honest, I've been back on my physical health. Y'all know I've always eaten healthy and I've always shot to maintain a level of physique, but it was always pretty selfish and it was about the way I looked. And I've been united with this like exercising again and eating in a way that fuels me genuinely, and that is a very conscious thing that I'm battling to do sometimes. Like when I'm not hungry, I'm nauseous, forcing it to happen. Anyways, doesn't matter. But I think that was the element that I was missing to really feel the subconscious and to really attach my mind and my body together, because they were not cohesive. I think parts of me were cohesive. And I don't know, like, I always would be like, gym feels like prison though. And it's like, hey, lifting stuff actually hurts, you idiots. Hey, that actually hurts, you fucking moron. And I think it's just your sign that if you're looking for a level up or your life is feeling stale, to remember the physical, and for some people that's normal, and like, yeah, no shit. But to remember the physical health in your life is really important, because it balances all of this out. And I think that's what's been happening to me recently too. And that's what fixed my staleness. We're exterminating the ego, and we are searching for well-roundedness on the road to exterminating this ego and shooting the ego down before it gets a chance to rise. And that's through honesty. And we could talk about honesty all day. We have 1,000,001 times, but I think that was also another pivotal thing, and I'm really glad that I grasped honesty in the way that I have in my program and in my sobriety, because it has allowed me to do so when it really counts. And when I'm feeling really down and really fucked, honesty is what saves me and my thinking again. To articulate a little more, those parts of me were something that I felt, that piece of Maddie and that piece of my subconscious was something that I felt like I had both known for a very long time, but like an old friend that I had known forever, but then also like someone I had met vaguely in a dream, or someone that I had seen their face enough crossing the street. That was those pieces of my subconscious that I'm starting to be united with now. But I think I talked a lot recently about my great divide and these duals and who I am, my contradictions and stuff like that, and this the duality of me. And now I am starting to see those missing pieces, because sometimes it feels like I don't know her, even though I've spent so much time working on her, and that's because my subconscious is screaming at me. That's because there's something right under the surface that is going to attach me to forever and to this life of peace. We have to have an environment where that part of us feels welcome to come out. That's not going to come out to somebody who's a hater. You can't be judgmental. You can't hate yourself in these deep ways, or hate even life. Even if you love yourself and you're more on the narcissistic side versus I was on the other side, but even if you're more on the narcissistic side, whatever realm that looks like, you have to provide yourself a peaceful and safe environment inside of you. I'm not even talking about your external. The external helps, but I'm talking about your internal environment, that it can step into the forefront of your brain without feeling shot down. And I don't know if that's scientific or not, but there is an inviting aspect that I introduced to myself that allowed those subconscious things to step forward and unite me now with all of this. You can't be controlling and be free. And now I'm understanding the ebb and flow of things, but yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. And I'm not sure how crazy I sounded this week, girls. We're at an hour 20. I have things to do. I'm not sure how batshit crazy I sounded. But that's just kind of, honestly, I think what that was is kind of a life update on what's been going on with me. And I'm finally happy again. And in a way that I have never felt this safe to charter uncharted territory, I think, as well, and step into the new of life and really get out those cobwebs. So that's all I have for you guys. And I love you, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.